So what is one of these modern fighting weapons actually capable? Let's run through some numbers. Quickly, by the Second World War, we military planners fighting in Europe, they realized that you didn't actually really need to be shooting people that far away. It was unrealistic because there's vegetation and because under stress, you got your head ducked down and like you're not really aiming all that well anyways. Enemy is camouflage. It's unlikely for you to actually see the enemy that far. Most soldiers don't have the marksmanship capability to actually aim and actually shoot that far. And so basically military planners just gave up on the idea that soldiers need to shoot that well between 400 and 800 meters. And so when we look at all these weapons, modern fighting weapons, AR-15s, AK-47s, AK-74s, Galils, Tavors, Styrox, right, L-85s, whatever, any modern type of fighting weapon you can think of, FN FALs, G3s, whatever. We're talking about an effective range of 400 meters against an enemy man-sized target. Are we tracking? 400 meters is the magic number. 400 meters to shoot a man-sized target. If we break this up into math, and we're going to get more detail of this later, but let's talk about the basic math of rifles. We're talking in minutes of angle. 400 meters to hit a man-sized target is 48 centimeters wide target, 19-inch wide target. That breaks down into 4 minutes of angle. So yeah, these are 4 minutes of angle weapons. Now some weapons could certainly be better. Some weapons are actually worse. But in general, if we look at a modern rifle, any modern rifle, when I say modern, remember, starting from the Mosin Nagant, starting from the 1903 Springfield, starting from the Carbiner 98, starting from the Lee Enfield, right? Starting from these weapons here, these are turn of the century weapons. We got all our modern rifle rounds here. Let's just show you here. There you go. Any rifle that shoots these cartridges, turn of the century rifle cartridges, that have now evolved into our modern weapons we see today, these are what we consider to be 4 minute of angle rifles. They might have been able to do better, but that was the standard, okay? So that means you should be able to shoot a man-sized target at 400 meters. That means approximately, let's go to inches, just for easy math for Americans. If we're talking about 19 inches wide, 18 inches wide or so at 400 meters, let's switch over to inches and yards. Let's call it 16 inches at 400 yards. Now, if we half that distance, we half the distance. So 16 inches at 400 yards, roughly man-sized target at 400 yards. At half the distance, 200 yards, what size of a group or what size of a target could you hit?
8 inch.
8 inch. Okay, that means a head-sized target at 200 yards. 8-inch target at 200 yards. Okay. Now, how about at 100 yards? What size group or what size target could you hit?
4 inch.
4-inch target, half the distance, 4-inch target at 100 yards. Now, what about at 50 yards? Urban type, self-defense type.
What is a yard?
What is a yard?
Yeah. I'm Canadian.
0.914 meters.
Okay. So pretty close to me.
Yards and meters are pretty close. We'll talk about this later, but yards and meters are very close. In fact, at our school, we have a funny unit of measure here called the yetre. And we use the Canadian spelling, Y-E-T-R-E, which is somewhere between a yard and a meter because Americans don't do math. So if you're Canadian, we'll talk about yards and meters mostly interchangeably in this program. Just know that they're fairly similar, but 0.914 meters is 1 yard. So it's just a tiny bit less, about 10% less. So if we have a yard, 400 yards, and 400 meters is close enough for our purposes today. So at 100 meters, 100 yards, 91 meters, you should be able to hit a 4-inch circle, about 10 centimeter circle, right? About 10 centimeter target. That means you should be definitely able to hit someone center chest or even center of the face. Now 50 yards meters, 50 yeeters, we should be able to hit a 2-inch target, right? About 6 centimeter target. At 25 yards or meters, you should be able to shoot a group of 1 inch or 3 centimeters. So that's a pretty small group. It means you should be able to shoot someone in the testicle or in the eye socket at a distance of 25 meters, which is the range that we have today. And so when we're zeroing, when we're practicing on paper, we're actually going to be practicing zeroing at 25 yards or meters. And it does make a difference between the yards and meters, but we'll be practicing at 25 meters today. We'll be zeroing at 25 meters today. Comments or questions? Okay, let's break down